You feel from the sky. Caught you making circles.
All right, Knock at the Cabin is a new thriller from M. Night Shyamalan. He hasn't released one since Old, which wasn't that long ago. He's been on a pretty decent streak lately as far as like people enjoying his output, which for the longest time his film work has been demonized by the public, or just people just his name has become synonymous with a lack of quality, let's say. Not saying I feel that way necessarily, but the consensus was for a while that he might have been, for lack of a better term, all washed up. Maybe he was a one-hit wonder. Maybe he wasn't something to get all up in arms about from the get-go. Certainly, perhaps he wasn't the new Spielberg, as I believe was on the cover of Time magazine. Correct me if I'm wrong. He hasn't written, one thing that's true is that he hasn't written an original work in a while. His last movie, Old, was an adaptation, a rough adaptation from a graphic novel. And his new work is an adaptation of a book by Paul Tremblay, I believe the author's name is. The book was called Cabin at the End of the World, and this film is called Knock at the Cabin. Shyamalan rewrote the script. It was adapted from the first draft of a script that was adapted from the book, and he changed the ending for certain. The ending of the book was a lot darker. The book in general, I haven't read the book, is a lot more pessimistic, a lot more darker of an affair, a lot more, let's say, misanthropic, from what I hear. And Shyamalan is a more optimistic filmmaker, with the exception of some of his work. But even his darkest work, his films that end the darkest and the most are the most pessimistic of his stories, he still finds the uplifting end note, a place to end, or even people who are doing a certain thing, they're doing it with the best intentions type of deal. Sympathetic villains, good versus evil, all that jazz. I found out that Shyamalan was actually had a, not necessarily, he didn't have upbringing in Christianity, but he did go to a Catholic school as a way for his parents to not have to send him to public school. And perhaps that is why so many of his movies are infused with Christianity, either themes or straight up just like thrown in there. Mel Gibson's character is an ex-priest in Signs. The Village has tones of that. Sixth Sense certainly has tones of that, in dealing with the afterlife and such, and it is a story of redemption that most or just like righting the wrongs of like restless spirits being left to wander the earth, and unfinished business and such things, and Unbreakable is classic comic booky good versus evil stuff. And I mean, the deal goes on and on. I mean, I think he hasn't gone as straightforward as he did with Signs, and Knock at the Cabin is a good companion piece to Signs. I would say that Knock at the Cabin, he's dealing with a lot of the same stuff that he already did in Signs, and in a lot of the same ways. Now, Knock at the Cabin is not tied up with a nice, neat bow like Signs is. But then again, this isn't Shyamalan's story. This is kind of him rewriting a story that wasn't his. And it because of that, it feels a bit perhaps misguided, disjointed, unclear, there's a lot that isn't explained, which isn't necessarily bad. But when you're trying to drive home important points and themes, perhaps if you would have tied it up a little neater, it would have came across a little better. I would say that I would have liked it to be spelled out a little bit more. The gay couple at the center of the story. One of them is more misanthropic, and the other one is more forgiving. Both of them have similar experiences, but the misanthropic one has a harder experience. The one guy's parents accept him for being gay. The misanthrope, obviously his parents hate him and don't accept him. They've both had experiences with being hated for their sexual orientation, but the misanthropic one got a bottle bashed in the back of his head by a bigot. So he was the direct victim of a hate crime. So he is portrayed as as having a lot of reasons to be a misanthrope, but I would have liked to see a little bit more, because the movie deals with flashbacks, and I think that they could have picked better flashbacks, and they could have picked maybe even more flashbacks, and really just more. I wanted to see more than just a line here or there, dealing with how these guys are like night and day, like it's the opposites attract thing. They complement each other, they need each other in that way, but at the same time, the story seems to me, when you get to the end, it's about the misanthrope. It's a misanthropic story. So it makes sense to me when I hear that the book leans more that way, because that's the story. And Shyamalan kind of Shyamalan'd it up, which is fine. It's a good movie. It's entertaining. I'm listing its flaws now. It has a lot of strengths. Its cast is definitely among its strengths. It looks great. I did hear that because the original cinematographer was fired or quit from the project and was replaced by the cinematographer that Shyamalan uses on his show Servant. It also stars Rupert Grint as one of the knockers at the cabin, and who is in his show Servant, which I believe just ended. And like creative differences or whatever, they had to find a new cinematographer. I heard also that the film was shot in a linear fashion. All the stuff at the cabin was shot from beginning to end, like in order. And so there is a point in the movie where some of that extreme style, some of the extreme stylistic choices of the cinematographer kind of just stop happening. There's one shot at the very beginning where the camera's at the back of like Rupert Grint's head, and it's almost like strapped to the back of him in like harness, in like a harness fashion, like you'd see in a Spike Lee movie, on like only the back, so you're feeling each punch that Rupert Grint is receiving. There are some shots with where a camera is following an axe, like something out of just a very like Lee Wynell's Upload, or something of that matter. It's just it's like following the action in a very interesting way, which is important for a movie like this, which is basically stage play. If you take the flashbacks out of the movie, it's a stage play. It's a bunch of people in a cabin the whole movie. So it's important to have the music be loud and exciting and operatic and over the top. The performances to be loud and over the top. The camera work to be the same. I'm not saying that the camera work gets stale after that, but I will say it gets a little bit more run of the mill, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But who knows what would happen if that style continued and the original cinematographer stayed on the project. Who knows? Again, talking a lot about the negatives, but I also didn't like the I'm sorry, I got to go on with this. I didn't like the incorporation of the television, the news segments where it clips to they turn the TV on, and as a way to prove that what the dudes at the cabin are pitching, that the end of the world is going to happen unless you kill one of your family members. We see like a giant tsunami and planes falling from the sky and accounts of deadly pandemics, and it kind of takes you out of the movie a bit. Because it's a little extreme. It doesn't ever feel like it's something you would see on the news, and it's just all really convenient. And I think it feels just like, okay, this is another one of those ways to make a Cabin in the Woods movie more interesting. You know, let's cut to some big budget special effects. No, they're not big budget special effects, but they are made to appear like that. It kind of takes away the mystery too, as far as like whether this is real or whether this isn't real. They throw in the possibility that it's a feed, that the television is a lie, basically, that it's all pre-recorded, and it proves nothing. But I think that I would have liked the writer, Shyamalan, to come up with a more clever way of conveying that and maintaining that mystery. Man, that would have been a lot more interesting. This is not one of my favorite Shyamalan movies, but it's not my least favorite. And most of the reason why it's not my least favorite are the things I've already mentioned. The cast, especially. Dave Bautista is probably, outside of Drax, how hilarious he is in that role, he's probably the best he's ever been in this movie. So and I've heard some people say they didn't like Rupert Grint. I think he's great in this. I think the other two nuts, the knockers, are also great. I've never seen them before, but I think they're amazing, and weird and off-putting in all the ways that they should be. The gay couple is great. Groff is good. I really think I'm not going to say underrated. He's kind of still new. I think he's turning out to be a decent character actor. I don't know if he can be more than that yet, but I'm rooting for the guy. And I think his partner, the misanthrope, was actually really good. And he did an awesome job because, like I said, even though it's a flawed version of it, this is his movie. This is that character's movie. Especially when you reach the end and you get what the statement is. It's his movie. The little girl, their daughter, is really great. She's a decent child actor. It doesn't take you. She's not bad in any way. It doesn't take you out of the movie. She's obviously the heart of the movie. She is, an innocent kid, so you're rooting for her and you're scared for her in all the ways you should be. The setting it's an old but true and tried and true formula, the Cabin in the Woods formula. It's a perfect place to have a spook show stage play. And I'm not going to say that if you watch this movie you're not going to be disappointed at the end, because you might be. You might be disappointed at the end, but the movie is enjoyable as you watch it, and it has some things to say. Does it successfully say all the things that it means to say? I don't think so. I think that's a flaw in the writing. I think everything else is on point. The script wasn't ready yet. It's just a little unbaked. And I gotta say it, but Shyamalan was not right for this project. And I understand he's the twist guy. I get it. But one thing he's not, that he always is... I think people are confused and think he is this. He's not Richard Matheson. He's not, a Neil Gaiman. He's not a Twilight Zone-y guy. He's not the Twilight Zone dude. He's not like, if you think of like The Sixth Sense, Signs, Unbreakable, The Village, these are movies with twists. Yeah, but are they Twilight Zone episodes? No. Is Knock at the Cabin a Twilight Zone episode? Absolutely. This is a Twilight Zone premise, and it is very much so. It has the spirit of it. It is the themes, everything. You could see this shortened into a Twilight Zone episode, and this is not Shyamalan's thing, and that's why I think he botches it a bit. He botches it a bit because this isn't his wheelhouse, and like I said, it's okay. It's okay. But I do think that people have him wrong, and I think he might have himself wrong, and I also think that this guy has to stop doing adaptations, because every time he does an adaptation, like I said, he botches it a bit. All of his weaknesses come to the surface, and they shine through. And all of his strengths potentially are not enough to save him. Not all the way. Like I said, like he's been doing. I think he did the best with this movie that he potentially could have, like he possibly could have. But for all of the misses that this movie has, and it has a few at least, it's because he just wasn't the dude for the job, and that's okay. We all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses, and Shyamalan's not the Twilight Zone dude. He's just not. And although some of his movies, even something like The Happening, appear like they are Twilight Zone premises on the surface, they're not. Not even that movie. They're not The Sixth Sense. You gotta look past the twist, because there's more to a Twilight Zone episode than the twist. It's about the themes. It's about how compact it is. It's a lot of them are written to be low budget because smaller scale, because they're shorter and they have to be. They have to be short. And this is stories in a book. This is shows like Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, The Outer Limits. Take your pick. They're all TV shows to be shot on a lower budget, so the stories are written in that way. I think that Shyamalan often has bigger ideas than that. And even that movie Old, I think that the graphic novel, if you read that, and I did, that's a Twilight Zone, but that's not the movie he did. He beefed the hell out of that story. He chunkified that story. There's a lot more meat on that bone, and I'm telling you, I love when he gets that way. I like Old. Why I like Old is it's batshit crazy, because Shyamalan can get batshit crazy. This movie doesn't get crazy enough. And from what I hear about the book, it could have. But Old, man, if you want to see the craziest shit that Shyamalan could possibly deliver an audience, see that movie. I would say second to that is The Happening. I think that a lot of people get that movie wrong. I think that movie's a comedy. I laugh at the movie, and I don't even care if Shyamalan's being sincere. I think he did it on purpose, even if he doesn't realize he did. I don't know if I can explain that. But there's so much shit in that movie that's just obviously meant to be funny. It's just like a batshit crazy B movie, invasion movie. And it's just so good. I even like the casting of Mark Wahlberg, because it even makes the stuff that maybe isn't supposed to be funny. And then there's just more funny then. Like, bring on the funny. Bring on the hot dog discussions, and the crazy lady who thinks that Wahlberg wants to kill him. Bring on the dialogue that is making fun of the movie as the movie's happening. This is ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah, this is fucking crazy. Why are we making this? That's basically what they're saying in that movie. It's hilarious. And other people they just say, "Oh, this is bad," and I think that's just really. There's a little bit more to it than that. And I don't even agree with that term or that word or that way to describe art at all. But what would I give as like a rating? Knock at the Cabin. Man, that's a tough one for me. I don't know. Maybe like, because I didn't hate it and I didn't dislike it. I'm definitely more liberal with my rankings. I don't like ranking movies, giving a number or a star amount or anything like that, because I think that's kind of reductive or whatever. I would say maybe an 80%. I don't know. Like, I feel like it sounds like I'm mostly shitting on this movie. I'm being critical of it, but the things that I think that they could have changed, they are minimal things. Like, I think that you can forgive it. These are things that you could still have a good time with the movie. Like things like, or if you could just cut out a few segments. Like if you could do a fan edit of Knock at the Cabin. It's like, you know what, really like watching Knock at the Cabin, but I don't like those news segments. Just cut them out. How is it now? Is it better? If your answer is yes, then yeah, maybe it is minimal. Maybe it would be petty to say that this movie is bad because of that, or to say that that I don't understand this and that and whatever. It wasn't explained to me. But then after the fact, you think about it, it's like, okay, do you get it? Yeah, you get it. Okay, then you technically can forgive it. Would it have been a better experience if and a better example of writing, if it was fleshed out a bit more? Yes. But does it make it bad? If that's the thing, does it make it bad? My answer is no. There's enough good with the movie, going on with the movie, that it doesn't make it bad. So, is it a 90? No, it's not a 90%. It's certainly not 100%. Very few movies are, if any. But 75, 80. That's the range that this lies in. To the point where this is not the movie that I would watch again. Like, if you ask, like, would I watch a movie like The Happening again? Yes, I would watch that again. Would I watch Old again? Probably. Would I watch Knock at the Cabin again? I don't know that I would. Like, I would, obviously, especially if it's on and I'm I'm in a situation where it's on and I'm just gotta stay there. Am I gonna, like, protest and walk out and be like, oh, I can't watch this movie, see you later, guys, and just like freeze my ass out in the cold or something? No, I'm not gonna protest and watch the fucking thing. But would I prefer to watch something else? Yes, I'll be honest with you. But should you go see it? If you're a Shyamalan completist, then yeah, see it, because there's a lot in there that's worth seeing. And it's a good study it's interesting to see what you feel, you may feel should have been different. To have these discussions as to who Shyamalan is, to look at the rest of his career. What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? And your opinion as a consumer of this stuff, of this art, should he be doing movies like this? Would you prefer him? Obviously, you can't dictate his life. You can't tell him what to do. It's not your business even. But yeah, these are all reasons. Even the fact that I'm going on like this shows that this movie is worth it. It's worth it in the way that it's worth it. And I hope that makes sense. And to you all, and I hope that you can get something out of the movies that you don't like as well. Positive things. Because there's nothing quite like turning a negative into a positive. Isn't that true? Thank you so much for listening to me go on like a crazy man. And I will talk to you sometime in the future. Goodbye. I think this movie big enough to get us both onto the show. But first we'll get some Taco Bell. Hide your face so they can't tell.